All right, let's tip it off. The first topic that we got in this debate is the 80s Celtics versus the 2010 Heatles. I got Elder Rufus going first. So, Elder, your time will start whenever you start.
Okay, all right, let's get after it. I like the 80 Celtics to beat the 2010 Heatles. I think a lot about this because there was a lot of similarities between them. Their runs were very, very similar. The type of talent that they beat was very, very similar. The players that they had on the team were very, very similar. I mean, some would have LeBron James as the best small forward of all time. Some got Larry Bird as the best small forward of all time. You see what I'm saying? I know that front line was just formidable for Boston, but offense is what sells tickets and defense is what wins championships. And when I do the comparison between these two teams, the defense of Boston is not even it's superior to the defense of what the Heatles would have been at that time. I also want to give them an edge because of their sustained excellence. They actually ran this through the whole 80s. It wasn't a 4-year flash in the pants like the Heatles was. They ended up winning 3 chips in the 80s. And that everybody knows that's the super team era that they went through. So I personally believe that era was way tougher. And by most pundits, the 80s was the toughest era of basketball. So 2010 was a good era, but it wasn't as tough as the 80s. So that's what I want to get in here right now for my first round. I'll save a little bit more for my next. But that's one of the number one things is the defense on the Boston side. I think it would. And you got to look at it, too. I know it's harder today to view older players playing new style. It's tough.
Elder Rufus starting off with a strong point in his first round. OgDaBeast, it's on you right now.
Now, look, I know it's real cliche to hate on the 80s and the 90s. I'm not one of those guys. I'm really big on what the 80s and the 90s basketball did for today's game, especially. These guys set the precedent for what you see now. But I hear you guys mention the Heatles. From what I was seeing on the docu, it said 2010's Miami Heat versus the 80s Boston Celtics. So you got the decade. I got the decade. What are we talking about Heatles for? Yeah, they were a part of that decade, but we had an extended run with Hassan Whiteside, Dwayne Wade on the back end. We also had Jimmy Butler on the back end as well. Boston went to 5 NBA championships in their run in the 80s, and the Miami Heat went to 5 NBA championships. Boston got 3. Miami Heat got 2 out of the deal, right? We saw what LeBron James led Miami Heat did. In their 4-year stretch consecutively, they went to 4 straight NBA finals and won 2 of them. Now, I'm sitting here looking at it from a lineup standpoint. I don't know what y'all talking about on this panel. Lineup? Let me create you a lineup. I'm the lineup king. So if we talking the 2010's Miami Heat tenure, coached by Spo, who y'all had? Bill Fitch during that run? KC Jones? It's not going to match up. Now, give me LeBron James at the point. Give me Dwayne Wade at the 2. Give me Jimmy Butler at the 3. Give me Chris Bosh at the 4. Give me Bam Adebayo at the 5. You say we got no shooting in that lineup? Duncan Robinson, we got Mike Miller, we got Tyler Hero, we got Ray Allen, we got Hassan Whiteside, who was a dog when he played with Dwayne Wade and those boys in the late 2010s. Listen, man, it's more than just the Heatles. Trust me, and I'm only just beginning.
You got it, Elder.
All right. For clarity's sake, I think we want to make sure we're talking about the 2010 Heat, meaning 2010 through 2019. We're talking about the 80 Celtics from 80 to the Heat didn't win 3 championships from 2010 to 2019. They only won 2. The other one that they won was in 2006. So that don't count. I wasn't trying to mix these teams and give a hypothetical of what these teams could have looked like. I went by what the actual teams in those decades did. And the Boston Celtics had a dominant decade where they went to the finals 5 times and they won 3 out of 5. And the only losses that they had was to the Los Angeles Lakers, the team that was just ultimately better than them with more stars and more impact. Other than that, they destroyed everybody. And then Boston never lost, ever lost to an inferior team like the Heatles did or the Heat did when they lost to the Dallas Mavericks with 1 superstar, no other all-stars, and got embarrassed. That was an embarrassing final. There was never an embarrassing final for Larry Bird. Never an embarrassing final. When he lost to a superior opponent like the Los Angeles Lakers with Magic Johnson and all those guys. Nobody else could beat them. Miami got a young team, right, in OKC. They beat those guys. Same thing happened when they play when the Rockets play. When the Rockets was a young team, they got beat though. See, we don't lose to inferior competition. The Celtics did.
Back to you, OG.
I'm not buying the fact that we taking this individually, annually, year by year by year by year. I want to talk about the Miami Heat as a whole collectively. I want to put everything together. See, you want to use that as your reference point because you have a dynasty on your hands. Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and these boys played together for their entire careers throughout the 80s. We don't have that luxury over here in Miami. So I want to combine everything. If we're going to talk about Miami, let's talk about Miami. You said I brought up 2006. I did not say that. I brought up the fact that they went to 5 NBA championships in that decade, if you count in 2020 as well. I said Miami Heat won 2 in that decade. I said Miami won 2 in that decade, and Boston won 3. I thought I was very, very, very clear about that. But I want to talk about the defensive lineup, and I want you to construct the lineup as well, if you can do so off the top of your head, because you don't seem to be prepared as I am. So I constructed a 10-man lineup full of Miami Heat players from that decade. And I told you, LeBron James at the 1, D Wade at the 2, Jimmy Butler at the 3, Bosh at the 4, and Bam Adebayo at the 5. Hassan Whiteside coming off the bench for him, another paint protector, a guy that averaged 17 and 14, led the league in rebounds, almost 2.5 blocks per game. Do not sleep on my man Haas Whiteside. Do not do that. And if you say we ain't got shooters, 4 out of 5 of these guys on this roster was all defensive first team multiple times, right? With the exception of Chris Bosh. I believe nobody you can put together throughout the entire tenure of the 80s will be able to match this starting 5 plus the 5 I got coming off the bench. Please elaborate on that if you do.
Elder, round 3, you got a chance to elaborate.
I'm going to decline to elaborate because I don't believe these debates are about 2K games that you're trying to put together and put out there. I think we're supposed to look at what these players did in their eras, those teams, because this is a team thing, not about players. What those teams did in that era and compare it with an educated analysis of what it would do against this other team. Not these hypotheses and these theories that we want to throw out that if this guy could have played with this guy, we ain't doing all that. I mean, everybody knows all the players on the Boston Celtics in the 90s. Everybody know that Hall of Fame All-Star team that started with Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. You had the Chief coming in at the center. Then you had guys like Bill Walton get over there, days like Dave Sheastings. See, I can name a lot of these players. Wedman, I can name these players that was on these teams. Y'all not going to know them, though. Most of y'all weren't even around to watch these teams in the 80s. So what good would it for me to tell you the hypothetical of these players that played that were very good? You don't even know them. But you do know the history of what these teams did. And when you take the collectiveness of these teams, one thing this team had was chemistry. They had cohesiveness. They didn't have that with this 80s team. With this 2010s team. And you pushing it. The decade is 10 through 9. You don't get to 20. That starts a new decade. You're trying to add to your team, and it still ain't helping you. That team still wouldn't be better than those Boston Celtics, in my personal opinion, from what they put out there in history. That was a defensive juggernaut team who had offensive firepower as well. And the only team that could have beat them back then was the mighty Lakers.
OG, last round. Do your thing.
To be honest with you, the Boston Celtics completely carried throughout the 80s, them and the Lakers. They were the focal point of the entire NBA. So you proving your argument to be that the Boston Celtics are more legendary or had a better run or was a dynasty, you should be able to prove that bar none. Because can you make a legitimate case that the Miami Heat had a dynasty? No. So I have to gather with the information that's provided to me. I don't have that advantage that you have, which should be easy to argue on your end. It's harder for me to argue for just a specific Heat team. Now, if you want to pick a specific Heat team, I would go with either the 2013 or the 2012 team who had stability all the way around, with a Ray Allen, with a Mario Chalmers, with a LeBron James, D Wade, and a foundation that they built, and a great defensive unit, guys that can get up and down the floor. These guys won 27 consecutive games. That's third all time for the most consecutive games won in NBA history. And I don't think the Boston Celtics was even in the top 5 in that category any year in the 1980s. So we can start off with that right then and there. First and foremost, if we're going bat for bat, tick for tack, who's guarding LeBron James? He's the second greatest player of all time, in my opinion. And I don't think Larry Bird can do a damn thing with him, nor anybody, Dennis, nobody on that defensively can sniff anything LeBron James can bring to the table. And I think you and I both know that. We saw the way the Heatles got up and down that court. So if you want to label it to just one specific team, you can take your 1985 Boston Celtics. Give me the 2013 Miami Heat.
Yo, that was topic 1. Go ahead and put the time up. Let's run the polls. You guys get over there. Make sure you vote. This was a fire-ass first topic. Let's get into round 2. OgDaBeast, it's on you.
To know where you're headed, you got to know where you've been, right? I want to describe what exactly hand checking is because, believe it or not, I had an argument in a debate with somebody in the comments on one of my older videos about exactly what hand checking is, right? Hand checking is when a defensive player is allowed to put their hand somewhere near the torso, waist area in an attempt to guide the offensive player in the direction that they want to go. They completely banned this back in 2004, and I think it was for the worst because being able to physically impose and dominate the game defensively was something that's completely been lost. It's a completely lost art in today's NBA to the point to where people don't even want to play defense. Now, imagine if you were to allow a perimeter defender, somebody of the likes of Drew Holiday, who I think is the best perimeter defender in the league right now, it would engage more of a defensive standpoint for a guy like Paul George, a guy like Kawhi Leonard, these guys that have real defense. Imagine if you could hand check in today's league. I think it'll slow down some of these 30 points per game scores, which I will get to in a little bit. And I think it'll allow more of a defensive, physical game. Can you do the rip through that Chris Paul is so famous for? Will that be called as a foul? There'll be less free throw baiting from these offensive minded guys. And I know what the league tried to do by putting a ban on the hand checking rule. They wanted to lean the game towards offense. And I'm a guy, if you know me, you know I love offense, but I just feel like defensively, the game has completely escaped itself, and banning the hand checking rule, in my opinion, was one of the worst things the NBA could have done.
All right, you heard it first from OgDaBeast. Elder Rufus, it's on you for your topic 1.
Okay. I'm an old school player, so I played in the hand checking era, and I do appreciate the hand checking era. But when you think about basketball, you have to think about it from the global sense, and you have to think about it from an economical sense. A lot of fans don't want to do that because they're not writing the checks. They're not producing the product. They just want to watch and be entertained. You know what I mean? But they don't want to care about the intricate things that go behind the scenes. The reason hand check got put out of the game is that game turned into wrestling matches. You start seeing 75 to 79 and 80 to 80. You know, it was very hard for teams to start getting up over 100. And guys that were kind of brutish, really not playing basketball, started getting major roles in the game. Fans was not paying to see that. Fans was complaining. They didn't want to see it. So I believe hand checking actually overall was a good thing for the whole game of basketball because it allowed the offense to have a little bit more of an advantage than giving the defense more of an advantage. Now you can see more scoring. Now you can see more of the athleticism. Now you can see them face up instead of having to turn their back. It made the game more entertaining to a lot of people. Now, a lot of us old heads, we used to play in that way, so we'd love to go back out there and do that. But for the whole of basketball, that's why hand checking was eliminated. And it made the game that much more entertaining when the offense wasn't limited by these aggressive defensive players. I'll get into more in the next couple rounds.
All right, OG, round 2.
Well, hand checking, like I mentioned in the first round, was banned in 2004. And I'm not against non-hand checking because I believe defense is a skill-based type of basketball. Part of the game of basketball is one of those dirty work things where you got to actually want to do it to partake in it, like rebounding, right? So I feel like if you're a great perimeter defender in today's game, man, if you add hand checking to this league, the game physicality will do nothing but improve the game. To me, it's too many people that are average Joes putting up 30, 40, 50 points any given night on a regular season. And to me, I think it's okay, it's cool, but really it diminishes what the previous guys did. For a prime example, the ban happened in 2004. So let's give it a 10-year sample from 2004 to 2014. Do you know how many players averaged 30 points per game during that 10-year span? Only 5 guys, rightfully so, right? Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, all guys we know are prolific scorers. But in the year 2022, which was just a couple seasons ago, 6 guys averaged 30 just in that season, not a 10-year span, just in that one season. 6 guys averaged 30. That's lunacy to me. I believe more defense needs to be played, and it starts with allowing hand checking, in my opinion. Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic, Damian Lillard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Giannis, and Tatum. Great players, don't get me wrong, but damn it, these guys are scoring way too easily in today's game, and I think we need some of that old school physicality added to the defensive side of the ball.
There you have it. Elder Rufus is back on you. Topic 2, round 2.
All right, I love the stats. I think it speaks to the attrition of what the NBA actually wanted their game to evolve to. It is an entertainment first and foremost, y'all. I know deep in our hearts, we're competitors. We want chips. That's it. When we get on the court, we get our best 5 players out there, and we want to win every time we go. That's not what the NBA is, though. The NBA is a game, but it's a business first. So you have to promote that, and you have to give the clients what they want. If your people paying want to see a lot of high scoring and guys scoring a lot of points, you got to set your game up to do that. Now, does it totally eliminate defense? Well, this year's champ shows you that. You got a team like the Boston Celtics who shot threes more than anybody in the league. But if you look at their skilled players, what else could they do? They all could shoot the mid-range. And the number one thing all of Boston Celtics players could do is what? They all could play defense. Name me a guy in that starting lineup for Boston: Derek White, Holiday, Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, whoever else they had, even an old school guy. All them dudes know how to play defense. So offense sells, and that's what you want for your product. Defense still wins championships. So it didn't hinder teams that actually know how to play defense when it comes to being in position, sliding your feet, talking, communicating, adjusting, things like that. It's supposed to be positions basketball, right? Look how the Celtics set it up. Now, I'm a Lakers fan, but I got to give them credit. They were the best defensive team in the NBA all year. And look who ended up winning in the end, the best defensive team. But they also entertained you at the same time by shooting 53s a game. So they figured it out. You have to grow. You have to grow.
OG, round 3.
I think teams shooting 53s a game is something that was going to happen throughout the evolution of the sport, right? But also it has a lot to do with the lack of physicality in today's game. But I feel like if you allow certain guys that are primary defenders to be able to engage more with these offensive players without drawing so many fouls, and think about how James Harden lived at the free throw line. Think about how Joel Embiid free throw baits a lot of these defenders into doing exactly what he wants them to do. He puts a lot of big men in foul trouble. He puts a lot of superstars in foul trouble, forcing you to watch guys that we don't really care to watch. So if we're going to do that anyway, why not allow some physicality? Why not allow these guys to get toughened up? Imagine if Drew Holiday can hand check. Like, for prime example, who was the number 1 ranked defense in the league? Nobody cares, right? I think it was Minnesota, but who really gives a damn? They had a great run this year, but nobody cares because they didn't impose their will. They were not a threat to anybody coming into any games. Nobody thought about, oh my God, they feared the bad boy Pistons back in the 90s. Like they feared some of these great primarily known defenders and defenses back in the 90s and the 80s. Like that aspect of basketball has completely gotten eliminated. And I understand that allowing these guys to hand check may slow the game down, but it'll also open up opportunities for these guys that truly want to dedicate themselves to the defensive side of the ball. Don't pay attention to whether hand checking should be allowed or unallowed. Pay attention to the facts that I'm presenting you to why I believe it was for the worst of the league and it should be brought back.
Elder Rufus, round 3. You got it.
Okay, man, I love the history lesson. And at the end of the day, let's deal with the facts. What did the aggressiveness of players being able to be aggressive on the defensive end hand checking cause? It caused fights, y'all. You go back and look, it was bolos being thrown in my era. You needed to be ready to fight physically. Ball your fist up and throw them. People didn't want to pay that. They want to do that. They go watch MMA. They go watch boxing. They didn't want to see that in basketball. But that's what it leads to in a 48-minute game when you got these superior athletes out here, all of them strong as all get out, and you constantly banging and fighting against each other. There's a way to be physical without having it to become confrontational. And that's what they've been able to figure out now because they still want to be entertained even with the physicality. They haven't taken it away. They just given more of an advantage to the offense. And again, I'll go back to it. These teams that play defense as a team, they're the ones that are always standing in the end. So it hasn't hurt defense that much. Now, does the defense look as good as they did back then? No. But guess what you don't have to worry about? You don't have to worry about getting clotheslined. You don't have to worry about, your nose getting broken. I mean, that's very rare nowadays. You don't have to worry about somebody coming up to you, clocking you on the side of your head and possibly ending your career. That stuff was happening. So you had to tame that to a degree to put your product out there. And I think the NBA has done a really good job. Hey, real quick, look at the new TV contract. You think we'd have that if we still boxing in the arena? That's all because handshake taken away. Look at the billions that they're getting now because people want to see it. They ain't paying that for fighting. They'll go play boxing.
All right, y'all. That is the end of topic 2. Elder, it's back on you for topic 3. Your time starts when you do.
All right. Bill Russell's impact on NBA today. You're not going to eliminate his rebounding. You're not going to eliminate his shot blocking. You're not going to eliminate the minutes that he played, which he never came off the court. His durability was incredible. One thing a lot of people don't talk about with Bill Russell was his basketball IQ. The man was a genius, a savant when it came to understanding the game. He was extremely selfless, too. He really was. He was just a selfless player, wanted to do whatever it took for them to win, didn't care about being in the spotlight, things like that. And he was a very good communicator, And he was a tough-minded guy because what a lot of people don't understand, the things he went through when it came to racism, all that kind of stuff that he had to overcome and still get out there and be the example that he needed to be. So I think he would have had a major impact on today's game. Now, would he have won 11 chips, y'all? No, the rules have changed so that owners can't manipulate like their owner did back then and centralize all the talent to go to college and then have to come to them because y'all had to understand how the draft was back then. It was a regional draft. You had to draft people in your area. So what the coaches would do, what's the name did, Red Auerbach, I'm going to get all the great players to go to these schools in my region so I can draft from them. That's how the Boston Celtics got all these great players. So he wouldn't have probably had 11 chips, but he still would have been a no-brainer Hall of Famer for the simple fact, look at guys his size now, 6'9", that are still great. Like Dennis Rodman, he's not considered one of the greatest rebounders of all time. That's exactly what Bill Russell was, that like body type, all that, 6'9", incredible athlete, all of that. But I think his IQ and all that is even on a greater level.
OgDaBeast, it's on you. Take us away.
Well, first and foremost, if you follow me and you know how I'd get down, I'm not the biggest Bill Russell fan. I believe he's the most overrated superstar in NBA history, but I'm not going to doubt what he did do on the court when he was on the court. You know, there's a cliche that says, oh, this guy was past his time, or he was ahead of his time, or Bill Russell came into the league right at the perfect time because that shit wouldn't be flying what he accomplished accolade-wise in today's game, nowhere near about. Because in my opinion, he's not a top 10 basketball player of all time. A lot of guys even got him in their top 5. I don't understand that one. To me, in order to be a top 10, most of my guys in the top 10 outside of Stephen Curry were two-way players. And if you're not going to crack the ability to be a two-way player, you had to have at least been extremely dominant on one end, which Bill Russell was on the defensive end. But let's be honest, is Bill Russell a better defender that Stephen Curry is, a better scorer? I beg to differ. So I would take Stephen Curry over Bill Russell in that sense. But to be honest with you, Bill Russell was about 6'9", 215 pounds, 210 pounds. That's Paul George. That's Paul George. I mean, for instance, like Scotty Barnes is 6'9", 230, 235. Would Bill Russell be an elite rebounder in today's game? Honestly, at that size and at that weight, with that stature and that frame, I don't know. You guys want to book it as if it's a positive, like if it's 100%. I can't argue that. 6'9", 210, that's pretty frail, man. It's guards that size.
All right. Elder, is back to you. Round 2. Let's do it.
6'9", 210 is still a huge man in the world today. And that's why I gave you the example of Dennis Rodman. They the same exact size, y'all. Him and Dennis Rodman, not him and Paul George. Him and Dennis Rodman are the same exact size. And again, I talk about the man's IQ. Back then, he was the elite of athleticism. Only guy that was more athletic than him was Wilt Chamberlain. So imagine if he's in this era and he's the most elite athlete in this era. So you got to project him in this era. We can't just take him from the late 50s and 60s and say he's got to play the same way in 2024. We can't do that. If he was the most elite athlete in his era, make him the most elite athlete in this era. Now, offensively, he still would not have been great. That's why I compared him to Dennis Rodman. He was serviceable, but I don't like his shooting percentage as an offense. But he would have dominated the glass. Because if a guy like Dennis Rodman can, he can. We got a guy like Russell Westbrook who's 6'4", right? 6'3", and he's getting double-digit rebounds. He's leading the league in triple doubles. Why would a guy 6'9" that's an elite athlete not be able to lead the league in rebounds? I think he could. This league, like you just called it soft. You said they're soft. So who's going to stop him? Which guy in this league this year is going to stop him from being the league? And then don't forget, he's one of the smartest guys. He's the guy that actually, in his older years, was able to play and coach the team to a championship and beat the mighty Lakers. The man was a savant on the court. So I'm translating all that to today.
All right, OG, it's back to you. Round 2. Your time starts when you do.
Like I said, you really have to be good at basketball in order to crack my top 10, which Bill Russell, to me, on the offensive end, he was way too challenged to be put in that elite conversation with the guys I got on that list, right? So if we comparing Bill Russell like a comp for player for today's game, I would compare him to like a DeAndre Jordan at his best. I would give him a shot blocking Draymond Green maybe, because he was able to start the break. He was able to get the ball up. He can pass the ball fairly well, especially for his size and the position that he played. But like prime example, right? Back in the 1962 season, everybody was putting up godly numbers because the NBA was moving at an all-time fast pace, 150 possessions per game compared to today, which is about 100 to 105 possessions per game, right? So you got an extra 40 possessions per game back in the 1962 season. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 because of that. You know, Eldon Baylor averaged 40 because of that. You know, Big O averaged 30 because of that. You know, these guys were putting up godly numbers, but the MVP winner was Bill Russell, and he averaged 18 a night, something he's done perennially throughout his career. He's never averaged 20 points per game in a fast-paced league. To me, he is offensively challenged. Shooting 42% from the field from layup range is crazy to me. Y'all want to clown on Angel Reese? Take a look at what Bill Russell did during his career. And we talking about defense. Yeah, he dominated defensively, but not against Wilt Chamberlain, who averaged 25 and 20 against him when he played against him. So who else was there to face at the center position? Bill Russell was playing me and you at the center position back then. Let's be honest.
Elder, you got some arguing to do. It's on you.
I just have to disagree. I've looked it up. The average center back then was about 6'8", 6'9", so he wasn't playing against me and you because we're not that tall. But I will say he was challenged offensively, y'all. It wasn't like he was garbage, but he was challenged offensively. But he dictated the game from the defensive end, from steals to blocks to rebound. And rebounding, he wasn't average, y'all. He wasn't a 10, 11, 12 rebounding guy. He was the best rebounder of all time. Next to Wilt Chamberlain, nobody's been a better rebounder than him. So, and Wilt is like the most incredible athlete of all time, just period. You know what I mean? But so I'm putting that into this era. I'm not saying he's a DeAndre Jordan. See, that's where it's hard for you to take this guy in his era and move him to this era, and you downgrade him because you just look at how he played then. How would he play now without having to play in chucks, y'all? How would he play now if he didn't have to fly coach and sit in the airport for 3 hours? You see what I'm saying? He was on private jets, and he had all the best trainers, and he had all the best dietitians, and he had all the best therapists and everything that you need now that you get. If he was pampered, but he had the mindset that he had. And remember, his mindset showed you how he was living in a city like Boston, dealing with the stuff he dealt with. This man was laser focused, and his IQ was off the chart. Everybody says he was a savant. He understood the game. So he would have been able to understand what it takes to win against these guys. And he went out and done it because he had the skill set to do it. Now, do you need him to score 20 a game? No. That's why he won the MVP, because defensively, he dictated the games.
All right, OG, take us home. This is the last round on the last topic of this debate. Talk to us.
Hey, good points, Elder Rufus, but I don't give a damn what charter flight you put him on. I don't give a damn what water fountain he drinks from. I don't give a damn what Gatorade bottle he got in his hand when he's on the bench. You will not be able to persuade me that Bill Russell will be any better than what we seen in the 1960s. I'm sorry. That man was completely offensively challenged. There's nothing we could do about shooting 42% from layup range. He's literally getting his own rebounds. I don't understand what point we can illustrate to try to overshadow that point. Like, there's nothing that you could tell me that would literally not be him, Dre Jordan, Andre Drummond. He's along those lines. Just watch him play. Watch how he moves his feet. Watch how he dedicates himself to completely one side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. He was an extremely, extremely challenged scorer. Like, I'm trying to find a better word than challenge, but there is none. Look, you giving me 150 possessions and you can never average 20 points per game throughout your entire tenure. If we factor that in, right, Bill Russell in 1962 averaged 18 and 22. If we do if we chop it up and break it up to how it is and compare it to today's standards, right, with today's possessions, it would be about 10 to 11 points per game and about 12 to 13 rebounds per game. We did the math already. We chopped all of that up, and that's what it would be. Who does that sound like? Dre Jordan. Would he be leading the league in rebounds? I can't promise that at 6'9", 210, but he was small. He wouldn't be all of what y'all cracking him up to be. I'm sorry.
All right, man. Y'all get over to these polls right now. We putting it up right now. Y'all make sure y'all go vote. Hey, man. You see Elder Rufus got the disrespectful sign up.
I'm just keeping it a buck, man.
And I'm
That's just what it is.
Fan. That's disrespectful, bro.
Man, Bill Russell was garbage. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Hey,
See, he said he was garbage, y'all.
He was a great defensive player.
But
oh my God. We need both sides. Can nobody be in my top 10 if you're not playing both sides of the ball? And if you're not playing both sides of the ball, you better be hellacious offensively. This
wasn't a debate if he's a top 10 player. We're trying to translate his skill set from then to now. But we have to make it modern. We can't keep him in the 50s and 60s and bring him to 2024.
I understand that logic.
He was the elite of the elite athletically in his era.
No doubt. So just because no, we can't do that.
DeAndre Jordan is not the elite of the elite in athleticism.
For his position when he was in his prime, yeah, he was. How many more elite athletically gifted guys can you name? Dre Jordan was jumping outside of the gym. He led the league in dunks.
It's more than jumping and than athleticism, bro. He just was not there, and then his IQ wasn't even close. I mean, let's not even talk about that.
not IQ. Yeah, not stylistically. Of course not. He wasn't as intelligent as him. But to say that Bill Russell would transition, like you want to give him all the attributes he has now plus some. So you want to turn him Super Saiyan. I'm not going to allow you to do that. That's not even physically. You want to turn this man into Superman. You can't take what he got. Take his athleticism, take everything like that, and then put him in all the best gyms and then add on to that. So what we saying? He gonna develop a mid-range game? He gonna get a 15 to 17-foot jump shot? Can he step behind the arc and shoot the three? What are we saying about Bill Russell in today's game? What is he gonna be?
Fellas, I got to step in right now. The chat is loving this. They talk about one more round. Unfortunately, we can't do that. The debate has already been set. It's 3 rounds, but I told y'all this was going to be one of them one battles. I knew it was going to be the best battle of the day. Y'all seen it. They came up here. They slugged it out. And it looks like for round 3, the live votes got OgDaBeast taking 70% of the votes. So good shit today, fellas. Y'all came through, y'all held it down, y'all stood on y'all points, y'all made compelling arguments, and maybe one of y'all was disrespectful and maybe one of y'all wasn't. But ultimately, it was a good battle. It was a good battle. All right,
it was
fellas.
A great battle. I had fun.
Next week, we will see you guys, and it looks like next week y'all got. Oh no! Y'all got buys? No. OG, you got casual. Yep. And Elder, you do got to buy. So OG, you will see casual. That's gonna be a good debate. I'm looking at the topics right now. It's gonna be fire. I'm gonna get those over to you soon. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up and conclude this. Y'all make sure you go vote. Exercise your vote to everybody that's not watching live right now. We're gonna see you guys again next week. Appreciate you for coming through. $1,000 cash prize. And this here very belt right here. One of y'all gonna get it. I'm stamping this right now. One of y'all gonna get it. All right. Until next time, y'all be easy.
Yes, sir.